Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we will be looking at a relatively new product, and that is Gradient by Dadswell, a very interesting effect that uses paint cards with some brilliant subtleties and some brilliant applications that I think that you will love, because this is now something that I carry around with me a lot. Even though there's some things I wish were a bit different, I still think this is fantastic. So let's roll the intro and get straight into it. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Gradient. So what is Gradient? Gradient is essentially a set of paint cards that are going to allow you to do multiple different mentalism type effects. So I think the best way to show this to you is my favorite effect from the bunch, which is the Gemini effect. I think we all know what it is, so it's probably not going to fool you, but you would remove these cards and you just play to someone that you're actually trying to paint your house, and you've went to your local Reno Depot here in Canada or Home Depot to take a set of these paint cards to determine what you wanted to do. So you looked at on the wall what would match best for your bathroom and your kitchen. So then you can invite the spectator to give these a cut if they want, or multiple cuts. It really doesn't matter, right? And then you're going to need two spectators, and you're going to tell them that one of them is going to choose to paint the bathroom and one of them is going to choose to paint the kitchen. So which one does it want to paint the bathroom and which one wants to paint the kitchen? So you want to paint the bathroom and you want to paint the kitchen, okay? So take the card. So you want to paint the kitchen, you're sure about that? So take the card and start dealing them in a pile, and then whenever you want to stop, you're just going to stop and place one of these cards over there. So let's say the first spectator stops here, they place the rest on top. And I say you wanted to do the bathroom, correct? So let's see. So you're going to deal down and you're going to stop whenever. And let's say they go here, they place it, and there we go. So now they've placed their cards next to some other ones. They're just going to go through and they're going to say, look, so you've stopped on, let's see here, you stopped next to this one and you've stopped next to this one here. So you could have chosen to paint the kitchen in any color, but you decide to paint the kitchen in garden green. And you've decided to paint the bathroom in panther pink. Very interesting colors that you could have chosen. But what was actually interesting is that this was not about deciding what to paint my bathroom and kitchen. It was about confirming what to paint them. Because from the start, I actually had an idea in mind. And on my Instagram, and if you're at home, you could actually go on my Instagram. If you go on my Instagram, there's a plan of the house that I'm buying. And inside there was the palette of colors to choose. And you can see that I decided to paint my bathroom in panther pink and my kitchen in garden green, which matches your choices exactly. So that is one of the effects that you can perform with Gradient. There's of course a ton of other effects that you can do with this, such as effects where the spectator cuts and then they're going to take one of the colors. You ask them to look at the color, they're going to be able to focus on it, and you'll be able to tell them that it's purple, right? And I'd be able to know they took purple. So you can do a ton of other effects. We'll talk about some of those in a moment. But now I think you're interested in learning where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So you can buy this directly from Dadswell himself on his website, or if you're like me, I decided to buy it from ALAKAZAM Magic. It's going to set you back around 40-ish Canadian dollars, which I believe is 30 USD. And what you get with your purchase is two things. One, you're going to get an instructional video that is going to cover all the basics for you. It's going to go over some studio performances of the effect to teach you, what you're supposed to do. It's going to do some explanations, and he's going to go over everything that you need. And it's around an hour and 40-ish minutes, the entire video. He's going to explain a ton of effects, a ton of history, a ton of tips, and a lot of ideas that you can bounce on and how the deck works. And then, of course, you're going to get your deck. So it's going to come in this little, very minimalistic box. It's going to come with two of these cards that you can use for effects, like the effect that I just did. You can use, like the Gemini effect, you can use this as a crib, or you can use this as a thing to reset your cards. You're also then going to get your cards. So the cards look very nice and they handle pretty nicely. Is just, for me, my only complaint regarding the cards is that the stock is very flimsy. So I get these are meant to be very genuine, but the stock feels very flimsy, and I'm scared that after a lot of use, these are going to break faster than some other cards because they do feel very papery, okay? So that's something that came to mind. And I know a lot of people also said that for them, the marks on the cards are very bold. And they are very bold, and if a spectator is to look at the cards for a bit of time, they're going to be able to immediately see the marks and catch on what the marks are without any issues, because they are very bold and they are very visible, right? So, but that's good for you as a performer, because I would immediately know that this is teal, right? And I believe this is teal octopus, ocean teal, okay? So ocean teal, you know, there's some things that you have to learn with the cards, but yeah, you can tell them the color, you can even tell them the other word and a few other stuff on the cards, but I do think that they all are well made. I do think that the markings are a bit visible, but I don't think that would be an issue for most people, especially in most of the routines. The markings aren't even used as much as you think, okay? So now let's continue with difficulties. How difficult is gradient to use? So first of all, gradient is super easy to use. If you're familiar with this type of effect, well, you know how kind of this works, but you can apply this to much more than just, you know, them cutting the card, your classic, them taking it, looking at it, and then you telling them what the color is. There's more to it. You know, you can do things like the Gemini. There's another brilliant effect that he does that uses kind of a one ahead principle. There's a ton of stuff that he explains in the tutorial video that doesn't even use the markings necessarily. So some effects don't even use the markings or use the principles of the cards. They just use magical principles that are implemented with this deck of cards that play very, very well. So that is an opportunity for you to use those cards that way. And in terms of the marks, you will have to learn some of the marks because some of them aren't that obvious as you may think. For example, you know, like the one I said, teal octopus was teal ocean because I mixed it up with orange. I think it's orange octopus. So you will have to, you know, learn a bit about some of the things and some of the cards. You're going to have to familiarize yourself with them. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily memory work. I would say it's ease of use. So the more you use them, the more you're going to be able to, you know, to get used to the marks. For example, this one, I know this one is, blue. So you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the marks and with how they're used relatively easily after ease of use. So there's no real memory work needed. Now, in terms of carrying capacity, you're going to need to carry around this box, and that's it. So you carry around the box and you're good to go. You can place this in your pocket or in your top pocket and you'll be good. A lot of the effects need a table, but some of them do not. So you don't necessarily need a table in order to perform this effect. The reset of the effect, depending the routines that you do, could be instant or will require a bit of a few second reset. I would say 10 to 15, maybe 20 seconds, depending how familiar you are with the deck. In terms of inspectability, the cards can be inspected, but as others have pointed out, the marking systems are a bit visible, which you wouldn't necessarily want to give the spectator to examine too closely in order for that to be apparent. And in terms of angles, the angles are pretty much 360 regarding the routine. So where would you perform this effect? You can perform gradient pretty much anywhere where you are seated or table hopping, anything like that. It's a very casual type effect. It doesn't feel, you know, very something that feels magical or anything like that. It just feels like something you're doing with the spectator that then hits them with a magical kick at the end. So that's the way that I treat them. It's like, oh, you know, let's try this. Do you mind if you help me with this? And then they go on my Instagram with the way that I put my prediction. That's not how he does it, but I wanted to do it like that. I think it's nice to have the visual pictures of how it would look. And then, you know, I do it that way. So you can do it close up. You can do it in a formal setting or casual setting or any close up scenario, like a close up parlor show where you can use these. Could be fun. You know, you could print an actual house map and then have the bathroom and the kitchen colored in the colors that you want. So that would be great as well. So now that I've mentioned all that, what are the positives and negatives of gradient? Well, one of the negatives of gradient is, as I said, I'm not a big fan of the cardstock used. I do feel it's a bit flimsy, and I do feel that it's going to get worn out quicker than some other decks of cards. I would have, you know, maybe liked if these were maybe a bit more plasticky. I think that could have been cool. But again, it is what it is. You know, that's how it's manufactured. So it is important, you know, to keep it as is. That's his design and how he wanted to do to make it look natural. But I do think for longevity, it's maybe not the best stock. And second of all is for some people, for me, it's not an issue, but I do know for some people, the markings are a bit too obvious. For me, they aren't whatsoever. I don't really mind because, as I said, the routine that I use don't really involve the markings. So even if, you know, I were to look at the marking here, it's not really important in the routine. So I don't really mind the markings, but it could be important for you. Okay? So now what are the positives? One, the effects provided are extremely easy to use and extremely fun. The effects are unique. They have interesting premises. They're really diverse, so you can actually play some of them and build kind of a small act with these cards. The instructional video is great. The cards do what they're supposed to do. The principle behind the cards are great. And the practicality of it is also very good because you can just place this in your pocket and you are good to go. So having said all this, would I recommend Gradient and what do I give it out of 10? I would recommend Gradient because it was to my pleasant surprise that, you know, I expected this to just be the casual, oh, the spectator cuts, they look at the card, you tell them, oh, look, you have yellow honey as the card, exactly, you know, wow. But the principles and the ideas that he gives you are so much more than that, that I do like this very much so, and the applications of classic principles that he uses are extremely good, which make me actually use this more than I expect. I actually have this with me in my bag, and I actually do perform it quite often now. As you've seen, I have it set up on my Instagram, and I actually use it quite often to do some of the effects with them. So yeah, I do honestly recommend this. I think it's great for what it's supposed to be, and I think it does the job extremely well. So I recommend it, and I'm giving it a 9 on 10. I think it's fantastic, and I think that you will enjoy it too if you decide to purchase it. So thank you everyone for watching, and I hope that I'll see you in one of my next reviews. Have a great one, and bye-bye.